Hello, and welcome. You have found your way to KnowledgeNap, a quiet harbor, a safe space designed for the curious mind and the weary body. As the world outside begins to dim, as the sounds of your day, the traffic, the conversations, the responsibilities, all begin to fade into a distant, gentle hum. You are here. You have made this time just for you, a time to unwind, to let go, and to drift. And we are here to help guide you on that journey. So, as you settle in, find that perfect position of comfort. Perhaps you are lying down, feeling the weight of your body, completely supported, completely held. Feel the sheets or the blanket, cool and soft, against your skin. Allow your eyelids to feel heavy, perhaps even to close if they haven't already. Let's begin with a single conscious breath, breathing in slowly, deeply, feeling the air fill your lungs, and then a long, slow, gentle exhale. As you release that breath, feel a small part of the day's tension just melting away. There's nothing else you need to do, nothing to solve, nowhere else to be. You are exactly where you are meant to be, right here, right now. Tonight, we are opening a door to a very old and very mysterious story. A story that has in many ways slept for centuries, tucked away in the quiet shadows of history. We are going to explore the Book of Enoch. You may have heard its name, whispered in discussions of ancient lore, of angels and of giants. Or perhaps, as the title of our journey tonight suggests, you've heard it mentioned in the vibrant, sprawling, and often surprising conversations of our modern world. It's a text that sparks a unique kind of fascination, a deep curiosity, in people from all walks of life, including figures like Joe Rogan. And tonight, we are going to gently explore why. Why does this ancient text, this lost book, hold such a powerful grip on the modern imagination? But this is not a lesson. There will be no test. This is a journey for your subconscious, a gentle stream of information, a story to carry you toward the peaceful shores of sleep. You don't need to remember any of this. You don't need to grasp every detail or follow every single thread. Simply allow my voice and the soft ambient sounds in the background to be a comforting presence in the room. Let the words and the ideas simply wash over you like gentle, lapping waves on a quiet, moonlit beach. If a thought of your own drifts by, just notice it and let it go. If you find your mind wandering, that's perfectly fine. It's all part of the process of letting go, of unwinding. This space is for you to drift. If you fall asleep in 5 minutes or in 50, you will have used this time perfectly. So take one more deep, relaxing breath, breathing in calm and breathing out any remaining trace of the day. Feel your body sinking just a little deeper into comfort, into stillness. Our story begins in a time before our time, with a book that was almost lost, and a man who was said to have walked with God. Let's begin our gentle exploration of the Book of Enoch and its peculiar modern resonance. Let the story begin. So, what is this Book of Enoch? We've heard the name. Perhaps it sounds familiar. Perhaps it sounds ancient and mysterious. And it is both of those things. It's a text, a collection of writings that has drifted down to us through thousands of years. Think of it as a book of whispers from the distant past. It is an ancient Jewish religious work, but it is a work that holds a very special and unusual place in history. You see, when you open a standard Bible today, whether it is a Christian Bible or a Hebrew Bible, you will likely not find the Book of Enoch inside. It is not part of the canon, the official list of accepted scriptures for most of the world's major religions. It is what scholars sometimes call apocryphal, which simply means hidden, or perhaps set aside. It was a text that was widely read and very important in the centuries before and during the time of Jesus. But as the foundations of doctrines were settled, this particular book was often left outside the main collection. It was considered different. Its stories were grand, fantastical, and for some, perhaps a little too much. But it was not entirely forgotten, not at all. In one part of the world, in the highlands of Ethiopia, the Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church, and also the Eritrean Orthodox Tewahedo Church, held this book sacred. They kept it, protected it, and included it in their own Bible. For them, it is not lost at all. It is divine scripture. This is a fascinating detail, how one tradition can preserve what another has set aside. It reminds us that history is not one single story, but many streams flowing side by side. For the rest of the world, the Book of Enoch was considered lost for centuries. It was only in the 1700s that European explorers found copies of it in Ethiopia, bringing it back to the West, where it sparked a new wave of fascination, a new curiosity that continues to this day. And who was Enoch? The book is named for him, after all. If we look in the book of Genesis, in the Hebrew Bible, we find a very short and very mysterious mention of this man. He's listed in the genealogy, the long family line that leads from Adam down to Noah. Enoch was Noah's great-grandfather, but unlike all the other figures in that list, who lived for hundreds of years, and then the text says they died, Enoch's story is different. The text simply says that Enoch walked with God, and he was not, for God took him. Just like that. He was not. No death, no burial. He was simply taken by God. This brief, powerful, and mysterious verse sparked a universe of curiosity. What did it mean to walk with God? Where did he go? What did he see? The Book of Enoch is the answer to those questions. It is an expansion, a telling of the rest of the story. It is a book, or rather, a collection of books, that claim to be the very things that Enoch saw. The revelations he was given when he was taken by God and shown the secrets of heaven, of earth, and of the future. So, although we call it the Book of Enoch, it is more accurate to think of it as a library, a small library, bound in one volume. Scholars tell us it is actually a composite work, made up of 5 distinct sections, or books. These sections were written by different authors, at different times, and then gathered together under the name of Enoch. This was a common practice in ancient times, to write under the name of a great revered figure from the past. It gave the work authority and significance. These writings are very old. Some of the oldest parts are believed to date back to the 3rd century, before the time of Christ, 300 years BCE. Other parts were written later, perhaps in the 1st century. This means the Book of Enoch was being written and read during a very important, very formative time in religious history. It forms a bridge between what we know as the Old Testament and the New Testament. It was a well-known book to early Jews and to early Christians. Its ideas were in the air. Its stories were shaping how people understood the world. And what are these stories about? What secrets did Enoch see? The book is a vast cosmic journey. It describes Enoch's travels through the heavens. He is guided by angels who show him the structure of the universe. He sees the storehouses of the snow and the hail. He sees the paths of the sun and the moon and the stars. It's a kind of ancient, spiritual cosmology, but it also, and perhaps most famously, delves into the very origin of evil. It presents a narrative that is different and more detailed than the story of Adam and Eve in the garden. It speaks of a time when angels, celestial beings, made a terrible choice. We will explore this more deeply in a little while. The book also speaks of judgment. It carries a powerful message that all actions are seen, that justice will one day come to the world. It contains prophecies, visions of the end of days, and the coming of a messianic figure, a son of man, who will bring righteousness and peace. It's a book of grand visions, of cosmic struggles, and of profound moral weight. And its influence is undeniable. Even though it was set aside by many, its fingerprints are all over early Jewish and Christian thought. The ideas in Enoch about angels, demons, resurrection, and the final judgment helped to shape the beliefs that became central to so many. In fact, there is a tiny book in the New Testament, the Epistle of Jude, that directly quotes a passage from the Book of Enoch. It quotes it as prophecy. This is a remarkable clue, a small window, showing us just how important this book was to the very first generations of Christians. They were reading it, they knew its stories. So this is the Book of Enoch, not a single, simple text, but a collection, a library, of ancient wisdom and cosmic visions. A book that was almost lost, yet preserved. A book that is hidden, yet quoted in the Bible itself. A book that tells the story of the man who walked with God. It is a piece of a puzzle, a key to understanding a world that existed 2,000 years ago. A world of intense spiritual seeking, a world that was looking for answers to the great questions of life. And it is this deep mystery, this blend of the familiar and the strangely unfamiliar, that continues to capture our imagination even today. As you continue to relax, continue to drift, just let these ideas settle gently. An ancient book, a hidden story, a mystery from the past, speaking to us in the quiet of the night. And so, as you continue to rest, as you sink deeper into that comfortable, heavy, peaceful state, let's turn our attention to the heart of the Book of Enoch. Let's explore the story that, more than any other, has captured the imagination and sparked such modern curiosity. It is the central narrative, the great drama of the Book of Enoch. It is the story of the Watchers and the Nephilim. To understand this, we must first go to the book of Genesis. In the Standard Bible, there is a short and very strange passage, just a few lines tucked away right before the great story of Noah and the flood. It is a passage that has puzzled readers for millennia. It says, "When man began to multiply on the face of the land, and daughters were born to them. The sons of God saw that the daughters of man were attractive, and they took as their wives any they chose. The passage then says that the Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterward, when the sons of God came in to the daughters of man, and they bore children to them. These, it says, were the mighty men who were of old, the men of renown. And then the story moves on. It's abrupt, it's mysterious. It leaves us with so many questions. Who were these sons of God? Were they angels? Were they a line of kings? And who were the Nephilim, these giants, these mighty men? The Book of Enoch takes these few cryptic verses and opens them up, expands them into a vast cosmic drama. It gives us the full story, the behind the scenes, of what it claims truly happened. In Enoch's vision, these sons of God were not men at all. They were, as many suspected, angels, a specific class of angels known as the Watchers. Their name implies their very purpose. They were stationed in the heavens to watch over the young developing human race, to be, perhaps, guides, protectors. But from their high, holy place they watched, and as they watched, they desired. The Book of Enoch tells us in great detail that 200 of these watchers, these celestial beings, gathered together. They looked down from the heavens and saw the daughters of men and found them beautiful. They were filled with lust. A plan began to form. Their leader, a chief angel named Semjaza, spoke to the others. He said, "I fear that you may not be willing to do this deed, and I alone will have to pay the penalty for a great sin." But the others all replied to him. They said, "Let us all swear an oath, and all bind ourselves by mutual curses not to abandon this plan, but to do this thing." So they swore an oath. All 200 of them bound themselves together. If one should fall, they all would fall. They made a pact, a terrible binding pact, and then they descended. They came down from the heavens in the days of Jared, the father of Enoch, and they landed upon the summit of a mountain. The book names it Mount Hermon, a name that in itself is related to this oath, this binding. And there on that mountain the transgression began. They took human women as their wives. Each chose for himself. They began to defile themselves with humanity, breaking a sacred divine law, a boundary between the celestial and the mortal. This was the first great sin, the intermingling of heaven and earth in a way that was never intended. But this was not their only sin. The Watchers did more than just satisfy their desires. They brought with them secrets, secrets from heaven, secrets that humanity was not ready for, knowledge that was forbidden. This is a central, critical part of the story. The book lists in detail what each of these angels taught. One of the chief watchers, a figure named Azazel, taught men the art of war. He taught them how to make swords and knives and shields and breastplates. He taught them the secrets of metal, how to forge it, how to weaponize it. He also taught adornment. He showed humanity how to make bracelets and ornaments, and perhaps most corruptingly, he taught the art of cosmetics, how to beautify the eyelids, how to use all kinds of costly stones. This wasn't just fashion. In the view of Enoch's author, this was the root of vanity, of seduction, of deception, and of a deep spiritual corruption. Other watchers taught other dangerous secrets. Semjaza, their leader, taught enchantments and the cutting of roots for magical purposes. Another taught sorcery. Another the signs of the stars, which is astrology, a way to predict the future, to bypass divine will. Another taught the signs of the earth, another the signs of the sun, another the course of the moon. Imagine this, a young world, a young human race, suddenly and illicitly flooded with advanced celestial knowledge, power without wisdom, technology without morality, the ability to make war, the ability to manipulate, the ability to seek power through hidden arts. This, in Enoch's view, is a deeper, more profound origin of evil than even the Garden of Eden. It was not a single act of disobedience, but a flood of corrupting knowledge gifted by rebellious angels. This knowledge, this technology, this sorcery spread, and violence and greed and lawlessness filled the earth. The world was turned upside down, and at the same time there was the other consequence, the consequence of their first sin. From the unions between the 200 watchers and the daughters of men, children were born. But these were not normal human children. They were hybrids, part angel, part human. These were the Nephilim. The Book of Enoch describes them as giants, immense beings of a truly fantastical size. The text describes them as being 300 cubits high, an impossible towering stature, figures that dwarfed the men and women who had birthed them. And these giants possessed an appetite as vast as their terrible form. They were a ravenous race. The book says they consumed all the acquisitions of men. They ate everything, all the food that humanity could possibly produce, all the grain, all the fruit, all the livestock, all the toil of human hands went to feed these monstrous children of the angels. And it was not enough. Their hunger was bottomless. When all the food of the land was gone, when the humans had nothing left to give, the Book of Enoch says the giants turned. They turned on the humans. They began to devour mankind, to kill and to eat human flesh. And when that was not enough, their hunger turned on the rest of creation. The text says they began to sin against birds and beasts and reptiles and fish, and to devour one another's flesh and drink the blood. This is a picture of total apocalyptic chaos, a world ruled by terror, a world where humans are hunted by giant, ravenous, godlike monsters, a world filled with violence and sorcery and war, all taught and instigated by the fallen watchers. This is the great wickedness that the book of Genesis speaks of. The reason the thoughts of man's heart were only evil continually. Enoch gives us the terrible, vivid details. He paints a picture of a world that is screaming in pain. The blood of the slain covered the earth. The ground itself was polluted, defiled by this violence and by the unnatural existence of these beings. And a sound rose up, the sound of the souls of men who had died, who had been devoured. Their voices, their spiritual essence cried out. Their cries rose up to the very gates of heaven. A plea for justice, a plea for someone to notice, for someone to intervene. The earth itself, the text says, made accusation. The planet groaning under the weight of all this sin, this blood, this corruption, and this cry, this terrible sound of a broken, dying world, did not go unheard. Up in the highest heavens, far above the fallen watchers, the archangels looked down. The great angels, Michael, Uriel, Raphael, and Gabriel. They looked down from heaven, and they saw the multitude of blood being shed upon the earth, and all lawlessness being wrought. They saw the chaos and the terror. They heard the cries of the souls as they ascended to the gates of heaven, complaining and saying, "Bring our cause before the Most High." And so the archangels went to the Lord. They became the accusers against the watchers. They brought this terrible report to the Most High, to God. They described the terrible things Azazel had taught, the eternal secrets that were revealed. They described how Semjaza, their leader, had taught enchantments, and how they had gone into the daughters of men, and have slept with them, and have defiled themselves. They said, "The women have borne giants, and the whole earth has thereby been filled with blood and unrighteousness." The world was broken. It was utterly corrupted. It was beyond saving in its current state. And so a decision was made. A great and terrible judgment was about to be unleashed, a judgment to punish the rebellious watchers, a judgment to deal with the spirits of the Nephilim, and a judgment to cleanse the entire defiled earth, a judgment that would come in the form of a great, purifying, all-encompassing water, the great flood. And it is this fantastical, epic, and terrifying story of fallen angels and giant cannibalistic monsters, of forbidden technology and cosmic secrets, and a world brought to ruin, that forms the very core of the Book of Enoch. It's a story that is far grander and far stranger than the simple biblical tale of Adam and Eve. It's a story that resonates with so many modern fears and fascinations. The fear of a power we cannot control, the fascination with beings beyond our understanding, the suspicion that our ancient history holds secrets far stranger than we have ever been told. Just let that story settle. A great cosmic drama, angels and giants, secrets and sin, a world crying out for a reset. Let it be a backdrop, a mythic tapestry for your own gentle journey, deeper and deeper into rest. There's nothing to figure out, just the story, just the quiet, just the calm. Let's continue our journey, drifting deeper and deeper into the quiet. Our story so far has shown us a world teetering on the edge, a world where celestial beings, the Watchers, have abandoned their sacred duty. They have intermingled with humanity, and from this union the Nephilim, the giants, were born. A ravenous, destructive, physical presence that began to devour the earth. This was the physical corruption, a terrible symptom of the angel's sin. But the Book of Enoch tells us of another, even deeper corruption, a sickness of the mind and of the spirit, a sickness that was not born but taught. This is the forbidden knowledge, the secrets the Watchers brought down from heaven, secrets humanity was never meant to possess, or at least not yet. Not without wisdom, not without guidance. The angels, in their rebellion, gave humanity power without peace. They gave them ability without responsibility. Let us gently consider what this knowledge was. The book is very specific. It names the leader, Azazel, a name that echoes with a terrible power. Azazel taught humanity the arts of conflict. Imagine a time before this. A softer, perhaps simpler time, when the earth did not know the cold, sharp edge of forged metal. Azazel revealed the secrets of the earth. He showed them how to dig for the ores, how to build the forge, how to fan the flames to a heat that could melt stone, and from this he taught them to make swords. Think of the very first sword, a thing made for one single purpose. He taught them to make knives. He taught them to make shields for defense, and breastplates, armor to protect the body in battle. This was not just a tool. This was an idea, the idea of organized warfare, the idea of human against human with a terrible new efficiency. The Watchers unlocked the potential for mass violence, a potential that, once learned, could never be unlearned. And so the world began to fill with the sound of hammering metal, the sound of sharpening blades, and soon the sound of battle. This was the first great forbidden knowledge, the technology of destruction. But Azazel did not stop there. He and the other watchers also taught what the book sees as the arts of deception. It might sound strange to us, but Azazel also taught humanity about cosmetics. He taught them the art of beautifying the eyelids. He taught them how to make bracelets and ornaments. He showed them all kinds of costly stones and coloring tinctures, paints and powders and shining things. Why was this so forbidden? Why was this seen as such a deep corruption? Because in the mind of the ancient author, this was a corruption of the truth. It was a way to create an illusion, a way to stir envy, a way to stir lust and desire based on an outer appearance. It was a turning away from the inner spirit to the outer shell. It taught vanity. It taught that one's value could be painted on or worn. This created a new kind of striving, a new kind of jealousy, a new unquiet in the human heart, the corruption of war and the corruption of vanity. The world was becoming harder and more superficial all at once, and the other watchers brought their own terrible gifts. Their leader, Semjaza, the one who first proposed the oath, he taught enchantments, he taught sorcery, he taught the cutting of roots, which meant the knowledge of potions, of herbs used for magic, perhaps for poisons, perhaps for control. This was the knowledge of power, not the physical power of the sword, but the spiritual, unseen power of manipulation, how to bend reality, how to curse or bind, how to gain an advantage through secret and dark arts. Humanity, which had once simply lived upon the earth, was now learning how to control it, how to control each other in ways that were unnatural. And other angels taught other secrets. They taught the signs of the stars, astrology, the art of reading the future in the night sky. They taught the signs of the earth, the signs of the sun, the course of the moon. This was cosmology, astronomy, but it was given not for wonder or for navigation. It was given as a way to seize the future, to know what was to come, a knowledge that, in this ancient view, belonged to God alone. It was an attempt to steal fate, to remove mystery, to make humanity equal to the angels, or even to God. So picture this new world, a world that just a short time before was innocent. Now it is a world full of forged weapons. It is a world of war. It is a world of vanity and illusion, a world of sorcery and manipulation, and a thirst for power. And living amongst this newly corrupted humanity are the Nephilim, the giant, ravenous children of the Watchers. This is the corrupted earth. It is a world in total chaos. The Book of Enoch paints a truly desperate picture. It says that unrighteousness increased, fornication multiplied, they transgressed and corrupted all their ways. The very fabric of creation was unraveling. The divine order was broken. The boundaries were blurred. Angels were on earth. Humans were wielding angelic power, and monsters were devouring everything. The book describes a sound rising from the planet, the cry of the oppressed, the cry of the souls of the men who had been devoured and murdered. Their spirits, it says, rose up to the very gates of heaven, crying out, pleading, "Bring our cause before the Most High." And it was not just the humans. The Book of Enoch, in a powerful poetic passage, says that the earth made accusation against the lawless ones. The planet itself, the ground soaked in blood, the rivers choked with death, the air filled with the smoke of illicit forges and the whispers of enchantments. The earth itself was groaning. It was sick. It was poisoned. It could no longer bear the weight of so much sin, so much violence, so much corruption. This is the ultimate consequence of the Watcher's sin, and the forbidden knowledge they unleashed. They did not elevate humanity. They dragged it down. They, in their selfish desire and their arrogant pride, had broken the world. They had polluted the very source. And the ancient story tells us that when a thing is so completely defiled, it cannot be simply repaired. It must be cleansed. It must be washed clean. It must be returned to a blank state, a new beginning. The cry of the earth and the souls of men was heard. The archangels in heaven, as we heard, looked down in horror, and they brought this terrible report to the Lord of Spirits. The world was waiting. The judgment was set. The stage was prepared for a great and terrible purification, the cleansing of the corrupted earth. But for now, just let that ancient picture of a chaotic world just gently fade. Let the noise of that ancient war and the cries of that ancient sorrow dissolve into the peaceful silence of your room. Here, in this moment, there is no chaos, there is no corruption. There is only calm, only the gentle rhythm of your own breathing, in and out, sinking deeper, feeling heavier, drifting peacefully. A world of forbidden knowledge fading into a deep and profound sleep. And now, as our journey continues, as you float in this calm, quiet space, let us gently shift our focus. Let us bring this ancient story, this tale of a lost and corrupted world, into our present, into our modern time. This ancient, almost forgotten text, the Book of Enoch, has found a new and perhaps unexpected audience. It is discussed in the corners of the internet. It is analyzed in documentaries, and it is a subject of deep and recurring fascination for one of the most popular podcasters in the world, Joe Rogan. His platform, the Joe Rogan Experience, is a vast stage, a place where ideas, both mainstream and deeply unconventional, are given space to be explored. And this ancient book fits perfectly into the tapestry of curiosity that he has woven. So why? Why is a modern commentator, a comedian, a host, known for discussing science and mixed martial arts and politics, so captivated by this 2,000-year-old apocalyptic text? The fascination is not necessarily theological. It is not a deep dive into religious dogma. Instead, it touches on several very powerful themes that are central to the questions his show so often explores. The first, and perhaps the most obvious connection, is the theme of a lost ancient civilization. This is a deep and recurring interest for Rogan. He has spent countless hours in long wandering conversations with guests like Graham Hancock or Randall Carlson. Conversations that propose a radical idea, the idea that our modern recorded history is not the beginning of the story, that perhaps before us, before the rise of Sumer and Egypt, there was another, a different, a highly advanced civilization, a civilization that was wiped from the face of the earth by a great global cataclysm, a great flood. Now listen to the story we have just explored. The Book of Enoch provides an ancient written text that describes exactly such a world. It paints a picture of a time before the flood, and it is not a simple, primitive time. It is a time of forbidden knowledge, a time when beings with celestial intelligence, the Watchers, were teaching humanity advanced and dangerous skills. They were teaching metallurgy, how to forge weapons, how to make armor. They were teaching a form of chemistry with coloring tinctures and cosmetics. They were teaching astronomy and astrology. To someone like Joe Rogan, this does not sound like a myth about primitive tribes. It sounds like a narrative of technology. It sounds like a description of an advanced, albeit corrupted, society. A society that had access to knowledge that, according to our mainstream history, should not have existed yet. So, the Book of Enoch acts almost as a piece of potential evidence. It's an ancient, corroborating story. It fuels the question that Rogan so loves to ask. What if our history is wrong? What if we are a species with amnesia? What if the flood was real, and it wiped away a world almost as complex as our own? This is a powerful and tantalizing idea, and the Book of Enoch speaks directly to it. Then there is the second great allure, the idea of suppressed knowledge. Joe Rogan's entire brand is built on questioning the official narrative. He's fascinated by the stories that are not told. He's drawn to the information that seems to be hidden. He often asks, why are we not taught this? Why is this not in the mainstream? Now, consider the Book of Enoch. As we discussed, it is apocryphal. It is a lost book. It was deliberately excluded from the canonical Bible by most early church authorities. For a mind like Rogan's, this is a massive red flag. This is a huge signal. The question immediately becomes, why? Why would they hide this? What is in this book that was considered so dangerous, so subversive? Was it just a theological disagreement, or was it something more? Did this book tell a version of history that the powers of the time did not want people to know? Did it describe an origin of evil that was too messy, too complex than the simple story in the Garden of Eden? Did it describe a history where celestial beings were directly and physically involved in human affairs? This idea of a banned book, a suppressed history, is incredibly compelling. It fits perfectly into a worldview that suspects authorities of hiding uncomfortable truths. The very fact that it is non-canonical makes it more interesting, not less. It gives it an aura of forbidden truth. And this leads to the third, and perhaps the strangest, reason for this fascination: the Watchers and the Nephilim. This is not just a story about giants. It is a story about non-human intelligence. It is a story about extraterrestrial or perhaps interdimensional beings, beings who came to Earth, beings who interacted with humanity, beings who interbred with humans and created a hybrid race. Now, think about how often Joe Rogan discusses the topic of UFOs, of UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomena. He has had guests like Commander David Fravor, the Navy pilot, or Bob Lazar, the man who claims to have worked on alien spacecraft. These are some of his most famous and most talked about episodes. The possibility that we are not alone in the universe and that advanced intelligences have been visiting us is perhaps one of Rogan's single greatest fascinations. And here, in this ancient 2,000-year-old text, is a direct story about exactly that. A story of beings from heaven descending to earth, interacting with humans, giving them advanced technology, and even breeding with them. To the modern ear, tuned to science fiction and UFO lore, the story of the Watchers sounds remarkably like an ancient astronaut theory. It reframes the angels as aliens or visitors. It reframes the Nephilim as alien-human hybrids. It reframes the forbidden knowledge as a technology transfer. This provides a stunning and shocking link between the ancient, mythological past and the modern, high-tech mystery of UFOs. It allows Rogan and his guests to speculate that maybe these encounters are not new. Maybe this has been happening for all of human history. Maybe the ancient texts are not myths, but are in fact reports of real events described in the only language the ancient people had, the language of gods and angels and monsters. This is a mind-bending possibility, and it is exactly the kind of reality-challenging idea that Rogan loves to explore. Finally, there is the philosophical nature of the story itself. The story of forbidden knowledge is a timeless archetype. The idea that a new technology, a new power, can be both a gift and a curse. The Watchers gave humanity knowledge, and that knowledge led directly to war, vanity, sorcery, and the total corruption of the planet. It led to the flood. Now think of our world today. Think of the conversations Rogan has about artificial intelligence, about genetic engineering, about nuclear weapons. We are a society grappling with our own forbidden knowledge. We are wielding powers that we do not fully understand, powers that have the potential to corrupt and destroy us. The Book of Enoch serves as an ancient warning, a parable for our own times. It is a story about the responsibility that comes with power, a story about human hubris, a story about the line between innovation and self-destruction. So, you see, Joe Rogan's fascination is not about one single thing. It is a perfect storm of all his favorite themes. It combines lost civilizations, a global cataclysm, suppressed history, and banned books, ancient aliens and hybrid beings, and a deep philosophical warning about technology and power. It is a single ancient text that validates and gives historical weight to some of the most profound and unsettling questions of our time. It whispers to us from the distant past that our world might be far stranger, our history far deeper, and our place in the cosmos far more complex than we have ever been told. And for a mind dedicated to exploring the edges of what we know, there's almost nothing more fascinating than that. Just let that thought settle, the connection of the ancient past to the curious present, a mystery that continues to unfold as you continue to rest and to drift. So this ancient text, this Book of Enoch, it is more than just a historical curiosity, more than a piece of trivia for a podcast. Its journey through time has left a real and lasting impact. Think of its influence like the ripples from a stone tossed into a deep, dark lake. The ripples spread far wider than the stone itself. In the ancient world, its ideas flowed into the currents of early Jewish and Christian thought. Concepts of a cosmic struggle between good and evil, detailed hierarchies of angels and demons, vivid descriptions of a final judgment, a resurrection, and the coming of a messianic age. These were powerful, formative ideas. They helped to shape the worldview from which Western civilization in part emerged. Even though the book itself was set aside, its spiritual DNA lived on. Its stories, its spirit, echoed in other texts, in folklore, in mythology, and its influence did not stop there. When it was rediscovered centuries later, it sparked a new fire in the artistic imagination. Poets like William Blake were fascinated by its grand, dark visions. Writers have drawn from its well of myth. This theme of fallen angels, a war in heaven, a race of giants born of a celestial crime. These are now part of our cultural library. They appear in fantasy novels, in movies, in video games. This ancient story of the Watchers and the Nephilim has become a timeless archetype, a powerful symbol. It is a story about the fall of the mighty, a story about temptation, a story about power that is used without wisdom. And perhaps that is its deepest and most lasting impact. It is a cautionary tale, an ancient warning that still feels strangely relevant. It reminds us of that fragile line between creation and destruction, between knowledge and corruption. The Book of Enoch, whether you see it as literal history, as sacred scripture, or as powerful mythology, it continues to do what it has always done. It challenges us. It forces us to ask big questions. It whispers of a past far stranger than we can tamely imagine. It reminds us that the universe is vast and filled with mystery, and as we have seen, it provides a rich and fertile ground for modern curiosity. For those who look at our world and feel that there must be more to the story. These are such big ideas, aren't they? Vast cosmic concepts, fallen stars, buried civilizations, cosmic justice, secret knowledge. These are ideas that can make the mind spin with wonder, with questions, and with a sense of awe. But now our exploration of these ideas is coming to a gentle close. This is a call to calm reflection, a time to let all of these grand stories, all of these complex questions simply be. There are no answers you need to find tonight. There are no mysteries that you must solve. Your mind has had a wonderful journey. It has traveled back thousands of years. It has explored the heavens and the earth. It has considered the nature of our modern world. And now it is time for your mind to rest. It is time to let all of these thoughts, all of these stories, simply dissolve. Imagine all these ideas of Enoch and the Watchers and the Nephilim like complex patterns of light. And now imagine those lights are beginning to dim, growing softer, fainter. The sharp edges of the stories are blurring. The details are fading gently, like watercolors in a soft rain. You are letting them go. You are giving your mind permission to release them, to set them down. They will be there tomorrow if you wish to find them. But for now, in this present peaceful moment, they are no longer your focus. Your focus now begins to turn inward, away from the ancient past, away from the external world, and gently toward yourself, toward the simple, peaceful reality of this moment. Your reflection becomes not about ideas, but about sensations. The simple feeling of your body at rest, the feeling of warmth, perhaps, in your hands and feet, the feeling of the soft blankets around you, the feeling of the pillow supporting your head, and most of all, the gentle, simple rhythm of your own breathing. Let your awareness settle there, just noticing the quiet rise and the gentle fall of your breath. This is your anchor. This is your point of calm. Each breath in brings more peace, and each breath out lets go of any remaining thought, any lingering tension. You are moving from a state of thinking to a state of being, just being here, in this perfect stillness. All the grand dramas of the cosmos fade into insignificance compared to this profound and simple peace. The peace of your own body and your own mind, preparing for deep restorative sleep. The reflection is over. The quiet has begun. You are safe. You are calm. And you are ready to drift even deeper. As the final soft echoes of our story fade away, fade completely, they dissolve into the quiet of your room. The journey is complete. Your mind has done its work. It has wandered through ancient worlds and modern questions. And now its work is done. It is time for your mind to be still. It is time for your body to take over. Your body knows exactly what to do. It knows the path to deep and healing sleep. You don't need to think about it. You don't need to try at all. You only need to let go, and you are letting go. Feel a new kind of sensation, a wonderful, gentle feeling of heaviness, a comforting, warm weight that begins in your feet. Feel your toes relaxing, your ankles softening. That warm, heavy feeling flows up into your calves and your shins, letting go of all the standing and walking of the day, just letting them be heavy, sinking down. That gentle warmth flows into your knees and up into your thighs. Your legs feel so heavy, so wonderfully heavy, sinking down into the mattress, completely supported, completely at rest. This peaceful feeling spreads now to your hips and your stomach, all the muscles softening, letting go. Your whole lower body is heavy and warm and deeply relaxed. And now you notice your breathing. Just notice it. So easy, so automatic. A gentle rhythm in and out. Each breath you exhale, you sink just a little deeper. You let go just a little more. That warm relaxation now flows up into your chest and across your back. Feel your shoulders dropping away from your ears, letting go of any burdens, any tension, just letting it all melt away. It flows down your arms, past your elbows, into your forearms, your hands, and right out the tips of your fingers. Your arms are heavy, your hands are soft and still. The warmth moves up into your neck, softening all the muscles that hold up your head. Your head is now so heavy on the pillow. Let the pillow take all of its weight. You don't need to hold on to anything. Relax your jaw, let it be slack and loose. Your tongue rests gently in your mouth. Your cheeks are soft. All the tiny muscles around your eyes are letting go. Your eyelids are so heavy, so peacefully closed. Your forehead is smooth and clear. From the top of your head, all the way down to the tips of your toes, your entire body is now in a state of profound calm, heavy, warm, and sinking gently like a feather drifting down through the quiet night air, drifting and floating down, down into a deep, comfortable place. There are no thoughts now, only feelings, the feeling of peace, the feeling of comfort, the feeling of safety. If any stray thoughts come by, just see them as little clouds drifting past in a vast, dark sky. You don't need to follow them. You just watch them drift away. Your only focus is this feeling, this wonderful pull into sleep. It feels so good to let go, so good to rest. You have done everything you needed to do today. And now, there is only one thing left to do, and that is to sleep, to allow your body and mind this healing, restorative time, to recharge, to renew. You're on the very edge of sleep now, that wonderful, gentle place between waking and dreaming. Let yourself drift over that line. There's nothing to hold you back. You are safe, you are at peace, and you are ready for a deep and wonderful night's rest. Sweet dreams. Good night. Sleep now. Sleep, sleep, sleep.